Welcome back to Law of Attraction Changed My Life. I'm your host, Francesca Amber, and this week I am joined by someone I'm very excited to talk to. She is the author of Make Space for Happiness, How to Stop Attracting Clutter and Start Magnetizing the Life that you want. So welcome, Tracy McCubbin.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I feel like we've lived together for the last month because we've been living and breathing your book in the book club. I feel like I know you very well. It's very
Well,
exciting.
I have been cheering everyone on, so I'm so excited. I think this was such a great book club pick. I just, especially with the work that you do and the conversations that you have, my approach to clutter and our stuff has always been holistic, right? Around like all aspects of it. So I think this was a great book club pick.
I love that you say that about your own book. I love it. I love this is a great pick. Do you know what? I've had this on my shelf for about 2 years and we've done decluttering books in the past. We tend to do about one a year, but I have never read a decluttering book like yours because every book we've done tends to go from room to room and it tells you how to organize and where you should keep your things. And people might be surprised to find out that your book does not involve anything like that. It really is just the mindset stuff, isn't it? It's all about why we magnetize the clutter to begin with. So I'd love to know why, I mean, you go into this in the book and it's so interesting. Why is this such a common problem for people? And it's such a new problem, isn't it? I mean, you see people that are below the poverty line. Back in the 80s, if you were poor, you didn't have loads of shit around you. Like you just didn't have the money for it. But now it doesn't even matter if you are poor. We are all drowning in stuff. Why is this such a problem for everyone?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think one, stuff just got cheap, right? I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, child of the 70s. And I was talking about this with my girlfriend the other day. We went shopping for school clothes twice a year. That was it. You went in the summer before school started and you went in the holidays. And other than that, those were the clothes that you had. And now it's like you can get a top for $4.99. You can, it's so cheap and it's so abundant. So everybody kind of has access in a different way. But then there's just this push. There's 24-hour marketing. There's, we're being sold to at all times, and we're being told that that stuff is going to fix everything. That's really the messaging that we're getting, that if you don't get, and look, I start by saying this all the time. I am not a minimalist. I love pretty things. I love clothes. I have a weakness for vintage Gucci purses. I have things in my life that I love dearly, but I'm talking about this excess, right? I'm talking about when it's the point that you have a room in your house that you can't even use because it's so full of shopping bags from, some discount store. So I think it's a combination of everything's cheap. We're being told that everything's going to fix our problems. And then we buy the thing and our problems don't get fixed. And then we think, oh, I just didn't buy the right thing, right? That's what I see happening. Well, if I just found the right skin cream, then I would lose 10 years off my face. Doesn't work like that. So
No.
I think it's coming at us, Francesca, from all directions.
Do you think as well, I feel like the way society is now, especially for women, I'm a mother, I'm a single mother, I'm the only adult in my household. So I'm very aware that we were not designed to live like this. I was never designed to be an adult in a tribe of one, looking after three children.
Yes.
Working from home, getting things delivered to my door, not seeing a human. Like I was never designed to live this way. And do you think that particularly for women, particularly for mothers, particularly this really ties into next month's book. Next month, we're talking all about the power of fun. And I think a lot of women now don't actually know what they enjoy. And we automatically just go to shopping because it's easy. It's easy. We can do it. Stuff is so cheap. Do you think that is part of it? Is we're just looking for that connection or we're looking for something we enjoy?
100%. And let's take that even a little bit further because that's a great point. Not only do we as women we're working, we're supporting the household. I mean, we're starting to turn into the breadwinners of most families. So not only do we know what we don't want to do for fun anymore, but remember this. So we're designed, let's go, this is great. Let's go back to how we were designed. We were designed from back when we were out as hunters and gatherers. And if we saw, say, we'd set a trap and we saw the rabbit in the trap, or we came across a pear tree out in the wild, we would get this hit of dopamine to tell us, oh, that stuff is good, eat the pears, take as many as you can, save them for the winter, right? So that's how we're biologically designed. Well, now we still get that same hit of dopamine when we go to Target or, Marks and Spence, right? You go there, you find something on sale, you get a little hit of dopamine, you feel better for a little bit of time, maybe 17, 20 seconds. And then what your body does, in the same way that you have that first glass of wine and you think, well, the second one's going to make me feel better, or that cookie is going to make me feel better. You think, well, that made me feel better, so let me buy something else. So then you get on this, circular of like buying, feeling better, not feeling better, buying, feeling better, not feeling better. And we've come to think that the buying is the thing that makes us feel better.
And I think not putting the time or energy into discovering what do we actually enjoy. My sister, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, she lives very rurally. She's very sort of isolated, got children at home, and she's always saying, I'm so busy, I never have any time for myself. Then when she does get a tiny bit of time for herself, do you know what she does, Tracy? She goes to B&M. Have you heard of B&M?
Is it like a discount, like a TJ Maxx?
I tell you what, yes, B&M has got British women in a chokehold. It's like our crack. It's like our crack pipe. People, when they've got some free time, they're like, oh, a little guilty pleasure, I'm going to go to B&M. And it's just full of like cheap homeware and plants. And even as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I really want to go to B&M. But it's like she could be like working on these goals that she always says she wants to do, or having this time for herself that she always wants, but she finds herself just going to B&M. How do we resist that lure of B&M, the crack pipe? How do we resist it?
We have in the United States, we have Home Goods. Same thing. It has this smell inside of it, and I have worked with clients. I still have my business, so I still work in people's homes, and this is not an exaggeration. I've worked with dozens of women who have rooms in their house that are full still of the bags from Home Goods, that they've just gone and shopped and thrown the bags in a room and never even taken the items out. I think it's a tough but honest conversation with yourself, right? That what are you, and I say this from working with people, and I say this for myself, and what I being mindful about with my phone addiction. I'll say it out loud, my scrolling on the phone, right?
Yeah.
That I've started to, I've been back meditating, which has been great, but I've also been trying to, when I find myself scrolling, I have a little alarm that goes off after 10 minutes. And I say, what are you feeling right now? What's going on? The question I ask myself, what are you avoiding? What are you avoiding? And if I'm like, I'm just exhausted, I don't want to work, that's okay. I don't want to work. I'm done. I'm clocked out for the day. But let's do something else. Let's read a book. Let's call a friend. Last night my husband and I went for a big walk at sunset. It's like, I think it's having the conversation with yourself. It's, what are you avoiding in that moment, or what are you hoping to feel when you're in your car driving to B&N? And I think that when we start to get honest, and no judgment, don't beat yourself up about it. Just say, I'm having this kind of a day. And guess what? Sometimes that little bit of shopping will make you feel better. But what happens is it gets to be this runaway train, and it gets to be your go-to, and it becomes a bad habit, and it's not satisfying. That's the thing. We keep going back because that, pillow that says live, laugh, love that made us feel better for 5 minutes doesn't. So we think we need 10 more pillows. So that's the cycle. So one of the things I talk about in the book, Make Space for Happiness, is what do you think is missing inside of you, and what are you trying to attract? And literally, it's just so great, this image of, right, you're trying to pull something in, attract something to yourself. But instead, I always imagine that we're like those cartoons with the that were made of magnets, and all this other stuff just comes sticking to us, right? Like the perfect crop top or the perfect lip gloss or this thing. What really we want is, true love and connection with our family, and also just some free time. Sometimes we want just some free time. And instead, we're buying air fryers and pressure cookers and, all these things that we think save time. So I think it's about having a really honest conversation with no judgment. What am I feeling right now? And why am I here? Why am I doing this again?
So that is a big part of the book, isn't it? That there are 7 emotional clutter magnets, which again, I've read a lot of decluttering books. I love, like, decluttering is like my porn. I love it. And I'd never heard of this. I'd never heard. And it's so, is it big love, true connection? Let me test myself on this. Health? No, wait, come on, Tracy, you just tell us them because I can't remember.
True connection, strong self-confidence, free time, big love, self-respect, real purpose, and lasting wisdom. And I kind of wrap lasting wisdom in with health, because I think oftentimes when we're on a health journey, we're trying to learn as much as we can. So I wrap that in there. But these are just things we're looking for on a daily basis. I work with a lot of women, sort of over 70. And I see this all the time as they get isolated. And I bet this is what's happening with your sister. She lives out, in the rural, just on the, wherever with the kids. It's like she doesn't probably have a lot of connection with other people. So if she goes to the store and you shopping and maybe you chat with somebody and you get a coffee too and you check out, you think you're connecting with people because you're talking to people. My husband works from home and is a very intense job. And there are days when it's been 3, 4 days since he's left the house. And I'm like, you have gone feral.
Wow.
You have to go outside and talk to people.
Yeah,
You
we
are
just
not
weren't designed.
connecting.
No, we are not designed for
No.
this, are we? I think working from home, it's just, yeah, it's not good for anyone. I would love to live in a commune, but I'd be very picky about who was in that commune. But yes, I feel like that is like the way we should go back to tribes. How lovely.
And you, especially, as a single mom, wouldn't you love a granny or two or some aunties on the property to help you out?
Tracy, do you know what my dream is in life, right? And I've actually thought quite a lot about this. I was going to create an app for single mothers that wanted to basically live together. So I discovered that lots of people, when they broke up with their husbands, that they weren't able to afford rent or a mortgage on their own. And not only that, they then didn't have any support. They didn't have any childcare. So I was like, imagine if you could match up single mothers that live in the same area and are like, right, children of similar age or whatever, they could share the bills, they could share the housework, they could share. Nobody steal this idea because it's great. Or everyone steal it. Someone please do it. But I would love to do that. Like, wouldn't that be incredible?
That's amazing. There's a program in the state of Hawaii that matches seniors who are living at home, who have extra room, with students or young working people. And it's so
Amazing.
successful. So it's the exact same thing. I mean, look, it takes a village. All the time. And I think we really don't understand how isolated we've become. And I think you're right.
Mm.
Look, I mean, social media has upsides. I mean, I met you through social media and I follow you and it's so great, but it's also tricking ourselves into thinking that we have these friendships, right? That you're not going and having a cup of tea with somebody. My best friend, who we've been best friends since we were 4 years old. We both just turned 59. So we've been best friends for 55 years. We try and see each other every couple months. We live half a state away and we talk on the phone all the time. But she was just down. She and her husband were just down this weekend. There's nothing that beats sitting at the table, having a cup of coffee and a cookie and talking. There's nothing that beats it. I mean, she left, and Francesca, I have to tell you, I was like on a cloud, and we didn't shop. We didn't even go to a restaurant. We just cooked food at home, and well, the husbands did, but that's what you got to make them do.
Put them to work.
So I
Now we're the
think it,
breadwinners.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I think it's about, one of the things I have people do in the book is to just check in with yourself. I think we're so judgmental about our clutter, right? I'm a bad housekeeper. I'm lazy, all the things. First of all, there's no world where we can do everything well that's coming at us. I mean, you're working, you're raising kids, you're having friendships, I don't know if aging parents are in your picture. That's a whole other thing that women are dealing with. And so it's no wonder that we go to these quick fixes to make ourselves feel better. So I've been a professional declutterer for 17 years. I have thousands and thousands of clients under my belt where I work in their homes. I'm not an online coach. I go in, and people are so hard on themselves. And I think that beating yourself up gets in the way of attracting what you want. Because if you're spending all this time on, I'm a failure, I'm not a good mom, I don't keep a good house, how can the good stuff come, right? How can the good stuff come if you're saying those words to yourself?
Well, I think as well, how your environment is really like my environment really affects me. And I know that I cannot wake up in the morning and be like, I am a wealthy woman. I am the UK's #1 podcaster. I can't say that and then look around a room that's full of shit everywhere and believe that about myself. And I think as well, I'm really big on like the more I can keep promises to myself and do the things that I said I was going to do, the more I have belief and trust in myself, and then therefore I love myself more, and then the more that my self-love increases, the more my like everything increases. And so this is why I think it was such an important part. Like I do believe that decluttering is such an important thing for manifesting. Normally people come to me and they'll say like, what's the first thing I should do? Like if I want to attract stuff into my life, what should I do? And the first thing I say, the first easy win is declutter. And they're like, what? Like my limiting beliefs? I'm like, no. Your kitchen, like declutter your house, get rid of things, and you'll be amazed at what energy that moves. So in your opinion, so how does having all this excess stuff around us stop us from attracting what we really want in our lives? How does it actually physically stop us?
I'm like over here just like, yay. Let's take a really simple example, right? Let's take a kitchen. So let's say you have a very cluttered kitchen, like tons and tons of coffee mugs, every appliance known to mankind, everything's out on the counters. Then you decide, the cupboards are so full that food's expired in the back and you don't have a workspace. And you decide you want to lose some weight or go on a health journey or eat better. That clutter literally prevents you from cooking. Right? If your kitchen is super cluttered, you're not going to want to cook. You're going to go through the drive-through, and then you're going to find that you're like, well, I was at Starbucks this morning and I had a caramel macchiato and I had a scone, and then I went through the drive-through and then I ordered in. So if you remove the clutter from your kitchen and you have a blank workspace, literally think about a blank, it's so much easier to cook. So it really, that stuff, that clutter is taking up space in your life. I mean, my motto for my company is make space for what matters. So if you have clutter everywhere, how can you bring other stuff in? Even if that stuff isn't actual stuff, how can you, I mean, if let's say you're looking for a partner and your house is so cluttered that you're embarrassed to have someone in it, how are you going to be able to date, right? You're out there with a secret. And people need to hear this. I'm not saying your house has to be Pinterest perfect. I don't care about that, right? I don't care about that. I want your house to be comfortable and to work for you. But think that exactly that. I really want to meet somebody, but I'm ashamed of what my house looks like. Well, you're not going to put yourself out there because you're thinking about the inevitable. It's a bit like, if you haven't had a bikini wax in a while, and then you think, well, I don't want to,
It's the best
you're
contraceptive. You're not doing
yes.
like,
You
no.
said it exactly. You're like, well, we're not doing that, and then sometimes when I was single, I was like, you know what? I just want it for me. And then all of a sudden you're feeling a little more confident. But it's the same with the clutter in your house. If your house is cluttered and you're looking for a partner, there's going to be something in the back of your head that's like, well, I can't have them come to my house. And then you're holding back a whole part of yourself. And so you're not showing up for yourself. And thereby not showing up for yourself, you're not putting yourself out in the world. So it really is literal. It really is, stuff is taking up space. And how can you attract it? And let's talk about a bigger thing, like, let's say you want to attract wealth. If you're out there overbuying crap, right? The $5 pillow, the this, the thing, and it fills up. It's like, it's sort of the messaging you're sending. It's like, well, I don't really value money because I'm buying stuff that I don't use. So why is money going to stick around? Why is money going to come to you? You know, when you get really like, this is the stuff I love, this is the stuff that I use. I am so big on buying quality, less stuff and more quality. And you're sending a message like, there's just something about that over shopping for those cheap goods. Also, you're wasting your money. So you're just, the messaging to yourself and to out there is like, I don't really care about money. I'll just spend it on crap.
Definitely. That definitely does have a lot to do with the frequency of money, and the energy of money is like, I'm wasting it, so you don't need more. But it's interesting what you say about the, if people feel like their homes are cluttered, that they would not want to start dating and they wouldn't want to bring like love into their lives. And I think as much as that is also just having friends round. There's so many people now that just don't like to have people in their home. And actually, whilst reading your book, as soon as I came back from Barbados, it was like typical, just suitcases left in the hallway, laundry drying everywhere. It looked like a Chinese laundry. And my friend Jess came round and I was a little bit like, oh God, I'm not going to invite her in because I've got all this stuff everywhere. And because I was reading the book, I was like, no. And I was like, do you want to come in and have a look? Because she hadn't seen my house yet. And she came in and we had a lovely conversation for about half an hour. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm quite lucky. I am normally quite minimalist. It was just because we'd come back from holiday, but I was about to close the door on that connection because of the mess in my house. And it was a real conscious decision to be like, open the door anyway. She's a mum. She doesn't care. Like, she knows what it's like to have like laundry everywhere. Like, who cares? But I can see that if you times that times 10 and your house was full of shit, then yeah, you are not going to want to attract relationships or people around your house. I've seen children of hoarders that they no longer see their children because they can't be in their homes. And is your dad a hoarder? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a very, and I want to say this to people out here who are listening. I always take this opportunity. If you think you or someone you love has hoarding disorder, please, there's amazing help for it. Please, please, please get help. Reach out to me, email me. I'll give you some resources. I want people to understand that is something that there is help for, and get it. But yeah, it's the stuff gets in the way of having the relationships, and not just romantic relationships. Exactly. Like, it's very difficult for me to have a relationship with my father of any depth because I can't go to his house. I don't want to go to his house. I go to his house, which used to be my grand's house, and I just break down in tears because it was my favorite place in the world. And so, it does that. And I think we had a client that we've been working with for a long time, 6 months, 8 months, just really like, COVID had really hit her hard. She'd been dealing with some depression, and her house had gotten really bad. My team had been in there working. She'd been doing great. And I was in the neighborhood, so I wanted to pop by and see how they were having. She invited me in. We sat in the living room. We had a cup of coffee. We had a cookie. Notice the theme, I like cookies. And I started crying because I said to her, how long has it been since you've just been able, like you said, have someone pop by and have a cup of coffee? And she said, 15 years.
Wow.
15 years she hadn't been able to have somebody in their house. And so the people out there who are saying like, oh, this is me, like, think about Don't beat yourself up for how you got there. Say to yourself, this isn't working anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. That's where change comes from, right? We do not change from beating ourselves up. Doesn't work. So I always tell people when they start their decluttering journey, what's your goal? What's your goal? And it could be anything from, I want to empty my guest room so my grandkids can come and stay. I want to have a dinner party. I want nothing on my couch so I can just sit on it. Whatever the thing is, if you start with the positive goal, not the I'm a terrible housekeeper and I'm lazy, if you start with the positive goal, that's going to keep you going. That's what's going
Yeah.
to keep you going. And we're so quick, especially as women, to beat ourselves up. And I really want people, if you're ready to make this change, yay, I'm so excited. Make Space for Happiness. You probably read it in the book club. But why and what's the positive outcome? And you cannot
Mm.
believe, Francesca, how motivating. I just want to have a friend over for a cup of tea. That's so motivating.
Yeah, 100%. And it goes back again to that, like how we're increasingly isolated. There's an amazing interior designer called Olga Nyman, I think, and she came up with this term, spatial alchemy, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it. And it's all about designing spaces in your home for, like you were saying about the kitchen, for exactly what you want to use it for, and setting an intention for that space to manifest whatever you want to bring into your life in that area. So like for me, my health is wealth. So my kitchen needs to not distract me, but support me. It needs to help me. Its job is to help me in achieving those goals. And the same with this house. I just moved here recently. I was very aware that, you know, big house is just me and my children. And I was like, this home, my intention for it is to be an open house. I want people to feel like they can come here, my friends, my family. I want people to feel comfortable. So however I'm decluttering or designing anything, it's always with that in mind of like, how can I make this a space for people to come and enjoy? So I think you're right about not starting with beating yourself up, but what is the end goal? Like, what do you want to manifest in your life? Is it that you want to clear out half your wardrobe because you want to welcome a man into your life and there might not be physical space for him there? What is it that you want? And work on it.
Wait,
Something
I
that
want to
came
tell
up.
this story. I want to tell this quick story though
Oh,
that speaks to
yes.
that. I had this client. This is so great. Her husband had passed. I think she was in her 50s. He passed. He'd been sick for a long time, and she called me. And I think it'd been 4 or 5 years, and she was ready to start dating again. And her closet was packed, just packed. Could not get into it. We went through every item of clothing she had, and the only question I asked her is, would you wear this in front of a new partner?
Oh, I like it.
And she was like, never. And I'm like, then why is it in your closet? If this is a goal of your life, you want everything in your closet. And I'm not saying it has to be fancy. It can be our lounge around clothes. I want everything that you pull out for you to feel good in, because when you feel good, you're going to raise your vibration, and that's when you attract people. So I think that it's so important to, what's your goal, not beating yourself up. What's your goal? And by the way, your goal can just be some peace and quiet. The
Oh,
stuff, the
how
clutter is
lovely.
loud. I
Oh,
know.
it
What's that look
is.
like?
It is so like I feel like if my house is a mess and my children are just running around like a tornado, I feel high levels of anxiety, similar to if I was in a minor car crash. Like I genuinely feel like, oh God, I can't cope with this. I can't have excess stuff around. It's
Well,
stressful.
that's very real. So
Mm.
they have done in the studies about clutter, they have found that women in cluttered situations, their cortisol gets raised, and we all know that that's our fight or flight. So you scientifically, the more cluttered your house is, the more cortisol you have coursing through you, and the more stressed out you are. This is also really interesting. I think Harvard, might get that wrong, did a study where they put people in a cluttered kitchen, super cluttered kitchen, and they offered them a snack, and then a choice of a cookie or a carrot. The majority of people in the cluttered kitchen took the cookie. They did the same experiment and put them in an uncluttered kitchen, offered them a carrot and a cookie. In the uncluttered kitchen, they took the carrot.
I can believe that. Also, you
Right?
do say cookie a lot. I'd love to know how many times you say cookie on this episode. You really do love
You know what?
cookies, don't you?
I know, I really do. And I just made a batch of these new sesame chocolate, tahini chocolate, salted chocolate chip cookies. I don't know why, I just on a cookie phase.
Oh, why not live your life?
Yeah.
So, talking about these 7 emotional clutter magnets, if people have not read the book, they might be like, but how can I figure out in my life what my clutter? I'll give you an example, right? So, I've just read your book, I've just implemented it into my life. And I noticed as I was clearing out certain areas of my home that I had over 80 different supplements, like bottles, jars, packets of supplements. Now, to be fair to myself, I do get sent quite a lot of free stuff. But as you say at the beginning of your book, I have accepted that into my home. I have given them my address. Like I have said,
Yes.
yes, please, I will accept it. So we can't blame them. And I realized through working through your book that every year when I do a goal setting party every January, and every year I have like a theme of the year of like, what is my number one priority this year? And there's the odd year when, after the pandemic and I was like, oh my God, it's just money, like just hustling. But most years it is health is wealth. And I always say that health is my number one priority. And then all of my actions are 100% not in alignment with that goal. Like I continue to eat Deliveroo every day. I continue to eat chocolate. Like I don't move, like I don't go to the gym. And all of my actions are completely out of alignment with this thing that I genuinely believe is my number one priority. So I realized that all of the supplements I was trying to substitute just taking basic actions towards my health, like going to bed earlier, things that don't require any equipment, going to bed earlier, drinking more water, all that shit. And instead I was looking for this quite literal magic pill that would fix it all for me. So that was a real light bulb moment where I was like, wow, I can't shortcut my way to good health. Like, yes, supplements are great. And I'm sure that some of them are fantastic, but why do I have 80? Like, I look like a drug dealer. I have so many.
Well, and isn't it funny? That's such a great realization. And by the way, I see that all the time, all the time.
Really?
And then also see, then the next level of that cycle is that most people, buy all these supplements and then they don't take them and then they expire and then you've just wasted money on something you've never taken. And, it goes back. I was very, very close to my grandmother and I was very lucky. She lived to be almost 101 and she was my little Scottish grandmother. She came from Scotland and she was just adorable. And as I get older, I realize kind of all the advice she gave me was really all I needed. And, especially about health, it's like, sure, yes, I take supplements, they help, but also, when I feel good, when I eat a mostly plant-based diet, when I put on my tennis shoes and I walk, I don't even have to go on my Peloton, just a nice walk, like all of the things that going to bed early, not like all those things are when we feel better. And so it's all right in our power, but we think that this magic pill. I mean, let's talk about beauty products,
That's another
right?
one. That's another one I have. Yeah.
Look, if there was the cream that worked the magic that all the creams say they're going to, we would all know. Someone would tell us, right? But instead, it's just this like marketing of anti-aging and you're bad and you need to be fixed. And look, I love beauty products. I'm the same way. I get sent things. I have things that I love. I like to try new things, but it's a good moisturizer. It's sunscreen. Wash your face at night, like, dermatologist. And so we keep thinking that there's this magic bullet. And I have to say, this is one of the great things about social media also, but I was looking at Sharon Stone on Instagram and I was like, okay, if there was a true magic product of anyone, she would have it, right? First person. And she's, I think 60, mid 60s. She looks great. I mean, she has good genes to start with, but she looks great, but she's also aging. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic pill. There's no magic bullet. Stop buying all these things.
Yeah. And it just preys on our insecurities as women anyway, doesn't it? And that leads me into something I did not expect to read in your book. Something I didn't expect to be a part of this was the whole thing about being a critical consumer and media literacy. This is something my mum and everyone needs a masterclass on. Every day, my mum will send me a Facebook link saying, look, I tried this cream and I look 20 years younger. I'm like, are you okay, mum? Like, what the hell? She bought these magnetic earrings that told her she was going to lose weight because of the magnetic earrings. Like, and it's just, so tell us about that, how we need to become critical consumers, please.
Yeah, it's so when I started researching this book, so this book came out of, 17 years of being a declutterer. And I was like, why? What? And then the pandemic hit. And I mean, I got this phone call 100 times. Hi, old client Kelly. So remember all that stuff we decluttered? Well, I bought it again in the pandemic and then some, right? I overbought. So I was like, wow, we can't talk about decluttering if we're not talking about our consumption. Because how's the stuff get into our house? That's what interested me. So then I started to do all this research on media literacy and being a good consumer. And we are, and this ties into social media. In the old days, when I was growing up, there were 3 TV channels, right? There were a couple TV channels. You knew when the commercials were. You were very clear that it was a commercial. So you had a little bit more savvy about it. And now we're scrolling through social media and these people look like our best friends. And we're like, oh, well, it works for them. And so that's the thing about social media. Nobody has to back anything up. They just say whatever they want. So we're mindlessly scrolling. It's coming at us. We're being marketed to all the time. And look, I understand. I sell some products. I have some affiliate links for things that I'm about to do my 5 favorite hangers. People need hangers. I have hangers that I like. I understand that, but it gets to a point. I mean, I see some of these women on who are doing the outfit of the day and then the link to buy it on Amazon. And I'm like, there's 365 days a year. Are you really wearing 365 different things? Like, what are we doing over here? And who's making those clothes? Children, and they're being shipped across the sea on a big tanker, and you're going to wear them, and they're not well made, and they're going to fall apart, and then you're going to throw them away. Like that cycle that we have to start getting smart about what people are saying and question it and read more than one review and cross-reference. And we just so want the quick fix that we're not doing the research, and it's getting us into trouble.
100%. I think the power of influence as well. Like you say, that's not how we used to be advertised to. It would just be on TV. And now we have these influencers. And do you know what's so interesting? So a couple of years ago, we have this store called Poundland and everything's a pound. And I said to my sister, look, I bet you I can make someone buy this. So we just were down this aisle and I think they were like Christmas lights or something. And I picked this one up and this woman was sort of nearby us. And I went, oh my God, this is the one that everyone's been trying to buy. It's completely sold out. They're supposed to be like the best lights ever. I was like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't bought one already. They're the ones that everyone wanted. Put them back on the shelf. We looked, she went and picked them up and bought them because she'd overheard me saying, this is the one you need. And I was like, isn't that, I must have been reading a book about influence or something. It was so interesting. And we do just believe we need all this stuff. And what you said in the book is just take a second to stop and think, who is benefiting from this, from me buying this, but also, does it really work? Like, just think for a second, does it really work? And you were saying about your friend as well, who works in those adverts where, you know, they do all these tricks, like for a chopper, they'll like pre-chop the vegetables and be like, ta-da, it did it in a second. Or was it like putting food coloring in lube or something? So they just wipe it away.
Yeah, that it looks
It's
like it,
crazy.
all that stuff. And if you look, like, you know, it's just common sense, right? Like you know, I think especially those sort of beauty things where they erase wrinkles or you use this cream and you know, it's just think like, No one in my life uses this. No one in my life has put a cream on and the next day I see them, all their wrinkles are gone. But somehow when we're watching it, we lose all sense because we want that magic bullet. And there is no magic bullet. You have to put the work in. I've recently started, it's a new follow from me, but I've been following Rick Rubin. He's the music producer who's produced everybody, the guy with the big long beard, and he's a fantastic. And he just was like, there's no substitute for the work. There's no substitute for the work. And that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. That's not like you got to do the work. And sometimes the work is figuring out what's missing in your life. What do you want? Where are you not happy? And how can you bring it in?
And sometimes the work looks like playing with your children when you don't want to. So, an interesting part of this book, one that I really resonated with, is so we have a TV show here in the UK called Sort Your Life Out by Stacey Solomon. Have you ever seen it? It's decluttering
People
people's
have
houses.
yeah. People have sent me clips. Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking amazing. But the biggest category by far in every single house is toys. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of toys. And I find this really interesting because I have had both ends of the spectrum. So after I got divorced, me and my daughter moved back to a flat in London above a pub. It was 500 square foot. 500 square foot. Do you know how small that is? That's probably your wardrobe. I don't know your wardrobe, but it was tiny.
It's small. I lived in 800. I know how small that is.
Oh, Lord. 500. We shared a bedroom. We shared a wardrobe. And just to top it off, I Airbnb'd it every other weekend. So it had to look like a show home. It had to look empty. So we lived in this very small space for just over a year. And when I compare that to now, I live in a 5 or 6 bedroom house. I have 3 children now. I have a swimming pool, a trampoline, a bouncy castle, a playroom. They all have their own bedrooms. We have soft play. We have everything here. And what's so interesting about that is when I lived with my daughter in London, because we had no toys, she had one basket of toys, that was it. We would go to the city farm all the time. We would go to the park. We would put yoga on the TV and we would do yoga together each night. We would cook together. We had 2 paintbrushes and one painting book. I sound like I'm in the Victorian times now, but we did. And we would sit and we would paint together after dinner every night. Our level of connection was unparalleled and it was insane. And we had a good quality of life. Now, I have to give myself a break because I am a single parent and I am trying to run a business and it's hard. And you feel like, I think, especially if you haven't had very much, you do feel like you want to have everything, have the trampoline, have this, have that. But I find myself now having all this stuff and we have less connection than me and my daughter did in that 500 square foot apartment. So I think what I've learned from that, and I think you talk about it in the book as parallel play, you're wanting your children to sit and play with their stuff whilst you sit and scroll on your phone and do your thing. And we're having less and less connection. And I can see that through having a bigger home, having more stuff. So I don't really know what the point of that story is other than to say it's so true. Anyone that's listening that thinks, oh, I wish I could give my children more stuff or a bigger house or their own bedroom. I'm here to say I shared a bedroom and a wardrobe and she had one basket of toys and we had a phenomenal quality of life.
And, I always say this to people. They're like, well, I just need a bigger house. And I'm like, well, you're just going to fill it up. Like, That's all you're going to do. And you're going to, fill it with stuff. The kid toy thing is so fascinating. Because I'm in homes all the time and I see the kids who have a lot of toys, they're not happier. They're definitely not happier. Kids, in fact, I think that and I'm sure there's research about this, right? That they're just not using their imagination. Since they were little, I don't even know how it started, but I have a niece and a nephew, so they're 8 and 9 now. My nephew's baby shower, my brother works in space, basically, and they work for NASA. So yeah, so there's like this, they're a little bit complicated, more complicated than that, but yes, in that world. So my nephew's baby shower was space themed. So I got this toy that was this cool rocket ship and it was wood. And so he's 8. So they've had it for 8 years. Every time I go to visit them, every time I go to visit them, we had started, when they were little, we would build a rocket ship. We'd take cardboard boxes, we'd build it. It got more complicated as things. It was like, there's a checklist, we gas up the rocket ship. I talked to him yesterday because we're going this weekend. The first thing he said, are we going to build a rocket ship this weekend? Not, I want to show you my new toys. Not, I want, Chris, my birthday just happened. I got this stuff. He wanted to do the thing that we've always done with literally whatever we find. Like, we imagine it and we put it together. And that's the first thing he asks for. So more toys for kids is not better. It's not better for their imagination. It's not better for them to learn how to put their things away, right? This is the thing. I go into people's playrooms and they're like, my kids never put the toys away. And I know they know how to do it because they do it at school. And I'm like, well, there's so much. Like, how can you expect them to do this? And there's so many categories. And, I think we're buying toys for kids because we feel guilty that we're working too much. Or I see this with grandparents. They come in, and you made such a great point that, let's say you're busy, right? Let's say work is really busy and you haven't been spending as much time with your kids. They don't want that toy. They want to see you. That's what they want. So that when you're like, oh, let me go to, go buy something and bring it to them. It's like, no, they'd rather spend the day with you or a morning or whatever you can do. And so I think we're so just stuck in this idea that more is better and I need to get them all this stuff and they need to have the latest thing. Do not get me started on like 10-year-old girls going to Sephora and Stanley cups and like I just think we're just setting those little girls up to fail, right? Like, where do you go from there? If you're buying retinol cream, where do you go? How do you, first of all, you're sending a message that at 10, when your skin is the most perfect it'll ever be before you go in the sun, that there's something wrong with it. I mean, that kind of thinking, that's not going to end well. It's just not.
Do you know what I hate? Spa parties for little girls. Fucking spa. Why do they want to sit with a face mask on, painting their nails? And this is why next month's book, Make Space for Fun, or whatever. No, that's your book. It's not called that. It's called The Power of Fun. I'm getting them hybrid now. Is so interesting because I think particularly with little girls and particularly with women from a very early age, we are disconnecting from what we actually find fun. Not to dig out my mum, but one year, my eldest daughter, it was Christmas and all of her cousins are boys and they all got like fun toys, like things to shoot each other with and whatever. And she got a set of bath bombs and she's 7. And I just saw the look of disappointment on her face and I just thought, how shit that at this age already you get a glittery bath bomb. You can't play with it. You can't, it's for a bath. Do you know what I mean? And it's so normalised that now women I'm nearly 40, I look around and I think, I actually don't know, other than work, and if it doesn't involve alcohol, I don't know what I enjoy anymore. And you have to really think about it and make a conscious effort to think, what is fun for me? What is fun? Other than shopping?
What is fun? What do you enjoy? I mean, I'm sort of realizing as time goes on, it's for me, especially post-pandemic, it's seeing my friends. That's what's fun for me. And not even going out and, this is there's a Dr. Weil, Dr. Andrew Weil. He's a functional MD and has been around for 30 years. And he's always said, and it's the greatest thing, he's like, instead of meeting a friend and going and eating a big meal or drinking a bunch of drinks, take a walk, because first of all, you're doing one of the best things for your body. And you're also truly able to connect because you're walking and talking. And I'm realizing that for me, seeing a dear friend and taking a walk through the park, up the hills, is fun because I want to connect. I want to I want to dump everything that's going on. I want to complain about my husband and my employees and my, I want to talk about stuff. And so I think that when we we all sort of made do during the pandemic, and we really lost how important that connecting is. And exactly like you said, like with your daughter, right? Those probably are some of her, will be some of her favorite memories in that little flat.
Yeah. Well, this month I've really been trying to just add more fun in preparation. And I've started doing these little things. Like the other day, we were waiting for food in a restaurant. And I thought, oh, it's 10 minutes now, just like sitting here waiting. And we just made up this little game where it's like, okay, you've got to try and grab this receipt out of my hand. And I'm going to try and hold on to it. And things like that she really enjoys. Or like, I'll race you to the car. Can you race to the car? We practice Irish dancing every night. After dinner, we put the music on and she does Irish dancing classes and we all just practice Irish dancing. And I tell you what, it's incredible. That doesn't take any toys. It doesn't take anything. It just takes some music.
And
That's it.
And then what happens in that experience is that you're dancing and you're laughing, and then you start to talk, right? And then she starts to share something that if you were watching your phones or watching TV or playing with a toy, she wouldn't give you that little nugget. And maybe it's a thing she's proud of that she wants to share, or maybe it's a fear that she has, right? That if you're not listening, I mean, I think about, my gran, like I would help her garden. I hate to garden, by the way. I've always hated, but I would garden with her because that's what you were at her house and you had to do chores. Like nobody, we worked. And I just think about all those times gardening, like the conversations we had and the things that she told me. And I mean, I would give anything to have that time back. And it was pulling weeds in the backyard. And that was it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're coming up to an hour, so I don't want to keep you forever because I know, isn't it like 6 a.m. where you are or something? Something ridiculous. Um, it's too early. But there is a quote in your book that changed my life. Not to be dramatic, but it literally changed my life. So I did a podcast episode maybe a year ago called Is It Self-Care or Is It Self-Sabotage? Because I think there's so many things that people do thinking, oh, I'm just going to go shopping like it's self-care, or I'm just going to lay and scroll on my phone tonight. I'm going to cancel my plans with my friends. I'm going to sit and scroll on my phone. It's self-care. And it's trying to decide how do we figure out, is it self-care or self-sabotage? And there was a quote in your book. Let me see. Did I write it down? No, I didn't. So I'll have to try and remember it. It's basically like, if the feeling you have during the activity and the feeling that you have the next day after the activity are different, then that is where there is a misalignment. So basically, if you go shopping and in the moment you're super enjoying it and you're like, look at all this shit I'm buying. And then the next day you get home and you see all those bags and you're like, oh, I've got to put it all away. I didn't really need it. I've spent money. That is not self-care, my friend. That is self-sabotage. However, what's a good example, Tracy, of something that you feel good of after? If you went for a walk with your friend, if you were like, I'm going to push myself, I'm going to go out for a walk with my friend and we're going to do 3 miles or whatever, you're not going to feel shitty about that the next day. In no world are you ever going to feel like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. And I just thought,
We
wow, no one's ever put it that way. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and I always talk about this with people around shopping. It's like that next day when you look at those bags, a dress never looks prettier than when it's hanging in the window at a store, right? There it looks perfect, and you imagine the life you're going to have, and then you get it home and you're like, it's just a dress. So if that feeling the next day is of regret, I always call that a shopping hangover, right? Like you're like, why did I do that? Why did I buy that? I have 4 black pairs of pants. I don't like them anyway. And exactly, if when you're doing that activity, and especially around shopping and consuming, if the feeling you have doesn't match the next day, if you wake up the next day and you're like, why did I do that? When you get the credit card statement, what was I think? You're not in alignment. You're not supporting your vision. For my husband and I on Sundays, we have a fantastic farmer's market. And we go to farmer's market and we buy our veggies for the week and we buy our bread from the place. And then our new thing is we try and find a new coffee shop in a neighborhood we haven't been before, just to go do something different. And I'm telling you, we have we went to one a couple weeks ago, ran into friends that I hadn't seen in a couple years, ended up making dinner plans with them. Like this thing, like that activity. When I wake up on Monday and I have a fridge full of vegetables that I'm excited to eat, I'm like, oh yeah, this is in alignment with how I want my life to be. So if people are out there and find themselves at BNN, is that what it was called?
B&M or Home Bargains is another one.
Yeah, right. And if you find yourself in there shopping and you sort of leave elated and you wake up the next day and you see those bags and you feel regret, you feel shame, you beat yourself up, that activity isn't working for you. It's just not. It's just not.
Oh, sorry. One more thing I want to say, just because I keep saying this is the last thing, but you also said in the book, and I found this so interesting because I'm going to say it loud and proud. People might hate me, but I am very, very anti multi-level marketing. I think they are schemes to entrap women that have very little other choice because they're trying to manage childcare, and I think they prey on vulnerable people, and I fucking hate them. But you said in the book the reason that multi-level marketing companies are so successful and seemingly normal, bright, intelligent women fall prey to them is because the first step in that business model is buy all this shit. And it's so easy and satisfying to buy all the stuff, isn't it? That's the first step. So of course you're going to get dragged in. Ugh.
Yeah, there's a great, if anyone's out there and wants to do a deep dive, there's a podcast called The Dream, and and season 1 is all about multi-level marketing. And she grew up in a place where most of the women in her life had been multi-level marketers. And she does such a deep dive on the psychology of it, on the way that it's set up, on the way that it is the patriarchy, that it is designed to keep women down. And it's fantastic. And I agree with you, because if I go, I can, yep, I don't want, yep, yep.
I have to
And
be careful. Some of my listeners are multi-level marketers, but I feel like I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't say, look, it's a fucking con. Show me your £1 million in your bank account. Show me this white Range Rover, whatever it is. Like, it's a fucking con. If anyone can prove to me that it's not a con, do you know what? My dream in life would be to do a Netflix documentary all about uncovering multi-level marketing companies. I would love it. But that woman should do it that does a podcast.
Yeah, you should listen to this if anybody, just listen to the podcast, because she comes from a place of, she grew up around it, right? Tupperware, all the things. So and she dives into, I mean, first of all, it's just math. Like the math doesn't math. Like if you just look at the math of it, and I'm with you. I think it's, yeah, I'm with you.
Do you know what? I hate, but they also think we're so dense that we're going to fall for it. I recently got given we went on a free cruise, which was amazing. And then we had to sit down for like this meeting, and this guy was like, you could become a travel agent, you know? And I'm thinking, I'm a fucking podcaster. What are you talking about? Got the #1 podcast in the UK for self-development. Why am I going to be a travel agent? You could be a travel agent. If you think about it, think of your child's school. How many mums there? 500. They all need to go on holiday. And I sat there thinking, I don't know if this is a sketch show or what. You're sitting here trying to tell me that I should be wanted me to sign up for this travel agency thing. And I honestly, this could be we need to do another episode, Tracy, on multi-level marketing.
I know.
We really do.
I know. It's with you. And I'll just say this, and this will kind of, there are no quick fixes, right?
No.
Multi-level marketing is a quick fix to make a bunch of money. Doesn't happen. The cream, it's not a quick, the supplement, like even supplements, you've got to take them over time. So if somebody's out there listening and they finding themselves like your mom, they finding themselves continually buying the quick fix, right? That's time for some self-reflection. What are you not happy with? What are you trying to bring into your life? What are you trying to stuff this stuff in? And this is another thing, historically, no judgment around it. Have any of those quick fixes ever worked?
Oh, there you go. That's laying
right?
it all bare. Yeah, 100%. Tracy, I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I've loved it. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell people, where can they find you online? How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, fantastic. So the best place, Instagram is my biggest platform. I'm at Tracy_McCubbin. I'm on Facebook. The books are Make Space for Happiness and Making Space Clutter Free is my first book. So there's two of them. And then if people want to go to my website, which is my company, dClutterfly, DCLUTTERFLY.com /checklists. I have a little free gift of 3 of my most popular checklists. And one is the 5 questions you can ask yourself about anything in your house, whether you should keep it or let it go. So if anybody wants to pop over there, it's good. 5 questions you can ask yourself about anything in the house.
Oh, I love it. I did hear you on Dr. Phil, I think it was. Is Dr. Phil a thing? No, not Dr. Phil. Who's the other doctor? The one that does the real, no, look, it was some doctor. You were on his podcast.
Yeah.
It was a doctor. And you said that there was some sort of quiz you could take to find out if you're a hoarder. Can you sleep in your own bed? Can you make yourself food? Can you clear up a room in less than 20 minutes? And I am safe to say I'm not a hoarder. I can do all of those things. But yes, it's so interesting. So much stuff on your website. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed this and you've got some value from this episode. If you have, please do rate, review, subscribe. And I'll see you next week. The law of attraction's changed my life. It's going to change yours too, bitch. Bye. Right. Okay. Apparently, we have to stay on here until it finishes